My fiancée stole my inheritance, faked a pregnancy, and her ex-husband exposed her at our wedding. I, a 32-year-old man, am reeling. My entire life just imploded, and I need to get this off my chest. I was engaged to Sarah, a 30-year-old woman, for almost a year, and we had been together for 2.5 years before that. I thought she was the one. I truly did. She was beautiful, charming, witty, and seemed to understand me in a way no one else ever had. We met through mutual friends at a charity gala, and there was an instant spark. I was captivated by her elegance and her genuine laugh. Our conversations flowed effortlessly, and within a few months, we were inseparable. I introduced her to my family, and they adored her. My mother, who is notoriously difficult to please, doted on Sarah, often saying how she finally found the perfect daughter-in-law. My father, a man of few words, would always have a warm smile and a comforting pat on the shoulder for her. My siblings, a younger brother and an older sister, also seemed to welcome her into our fold with open arms. Everything felt right, like all the pieces of my life were finally falling into place. My grandmother, bless her soul, passed away a little over a year ago. She was a phenomenal woman, a pillar of strength and kindness, and her passing left a huge void in our family. However, she also left me a significant inheritance, a trust fund worth a little over $2 million. She had always been particularly close to me, often telling me I had her adventurous spirit and her unwavering sense of justice. She believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. The inheritance was a complete surprise. I had no idea she had designated such a large sum for me. It was meant to be for my future, for a down payment on a house, to start a family, to secure my life. I was overwhelmed with gratitude and a sense of responsibility. Sarah was ecstatic when I told her about the inheritance. She hugged me tightly, her eyes glistening, telling me how wonderful it was and how we could finally build the life we always dreamed of. We started making plans almost immediately. We looked at houses, dreaming of a sprawling home with a big yard for children and dogs. We talked about investments, about setting up a nest egg, about securing our financial future together. It all felt so real, so tangible. About 6 months after I received the inheritance, Sarah announced she was pregnant. I was over the moon. A baby. Our baby. I had always wanted to be a father, and the thought of starting a family with Sarah filled me with an indescribable joy. We shared the news with our families, and everyone was thrilled. My mother immediately started knitting tiny booties, and my father offered to help us baby-proof our future home. Sarah's parents, whom I had grown to love, were equally excited, planning elaborate baby showers and discussing potential names. We decided on Lily if it was a girl, and Ethan if it was a boy. I started picturing a crib in the corner of a sunlit nursery, tiny clothes folded neatly in drawers, the sound of a baby's coo filling our home. I was utterly, completely, blissfully happy. Sarah insisted on managing the finances, saying she was better with numbers and that I was too busy with my demanding job. I trusted her implicitly. I had no reason not to. She had always been meticulous and organized, and I admired her financial acumen. So, I gave her access to the inheritance account, along with our joint savings. She handled all the bills, the investments, and the planning for our future home. I was busy at work, often putting in long hours, and I appreciated her taking the burden of financial management off my shoulders. I saw statements occasionally, but I didn't scrutinize them. I just assumed everything was in order. Looking back now, I realize how incredibly naive and foolish I was. The wedding planning was in full swing. We had chosen a beautiful venue, a historic mansion overlooking a lake, and had sent out invitations to over 200 guests. Sarah was radiant, glowing with what I thought was the joy of impending motherhood and our shared future. She was a vision in her bridal gown fittings, and I couldn't wait to see her walk down the aisle. Our wedding was set for a Saturday in early June, a perfect spring day. A week before the wedding, I received an anonymous email. It was short, cryptic, and chilling. It simply said, "Ask Sarah about David and her pregnancy." I dismissed it at first. I thought it was a prank, perhaps from a jealous ex-girlfriend or someone trying to cause trouble. But the words David and pregnancy gnawed at me. I tried to push them out of my mind, focusing on the excitement of our upcoming wedding. Then, 2 days before the wedding, I received another email, this time with attachments. There were photos of Sarah with a man I didn't recognize, looking intimately close. There were also screenshots of text messages between Sarah and this David, discussing money, a plan, and a fake pregnancy. My blood ran cold. The world tilted on its axis. I felt a crushing weight in my chest, a sensation of betrayal so profound it took my breath away. I immediately confronted Sarah. She denied everything, vehemently. She cried, she pleaded, she swore it was a misunderstanding, a cruel joke by someone who wanted to ruin our happiness. She said the man in the photos was an old friend, and the texts were taken out of context. But her eyes, usually so expressive, held a flicker of panic that I had never seen before. Her words rang hollow. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was staring me in the face. My heart was breaking into a million pieces, yet a cold, hard knot of suspicion began to form in my gut that I pressed her further, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and desperation. What about the pregnancy, Sarah? Is it fake? She broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably. She admitted it. The pregnancy was fake. She had faked the ultrasounds, bought a prosthetic belly, and had been meticulously planning this elaborate deception. My world shattered. The image of Lily or Ethan, the nursery, the tiny booties, it all vanished in a puff of smoke, replaced by a devastating emptiness. The pain was unbearable that in the midst of my shock and despair, I remembered the anonymous emailer mentioning David. I tracked down his contact information through a reverse image search of the photos. It turned out he was Sarah's ex-husband. I called him, my voice hoarse with unshed tears. He was initially hesitant, but when I explained who I was and what I had discovered, he finally opened up. He told me a horrifying story, a pattern of deception that spanned years. According to David, Sarah had done this before. She had faked a pregnancy with him to trap him, to get access to his family's wealth. He had lost everything in their divorce, financially and emotionally. He had been trying to warn me for months, but Sarah had blocked all his attempts to contact me. He had sent the anonymous emails as a last resort, desperate to save me from the same fate he had endured. He told me that Sarah had a history of charming men, getting them to fall in love with her, and then systematically draining their finances. He had even heard through mutual acquaintances that she was planning to elope with him, David, after our wedding, taking my inheritance with her. I was numb. The betrayal was so deep, so absolute, it felt physically debilitating. My fiancée, the woman I loved, the mother of my supposed child, was a con artist, a manipulator, a thief, and she was planning to leave me for her ex-husband. After cleaning out my inheritance, I still had no idea about the inheritance itself. I went to the bank, my hand shaking so badly I could barely sign the forms. I asked for a full statement of the trust fund and our joint accounts. What I saw made my blood run cold. The $2 million inheritance was gone. Completely. Drained. All our joint savings were also gone. Every single penny. Sarah had systematically siphoned off the money over the past year, transferring it to various offshore accounts and even directly into David's account, posing as me, slowly but surely, leaving me with nothing but a mountain of debt. She had been incredibly clever, masking the transactions as investments and large purchases for our future home, providing me with falsified statements. My financial future, the one my grandmother had so lovingly provided for, was decimated. The wedding was still scheduled for Saturday. I was a wreck, but a cold fury began to simmer beneath the surface of my grief. I decided to go through with the wedding, but not for the reasons anyone expected. I wanted to expose her. I wanted to make sure everyone knew the truth. David agreed to help, providing me with all the evidence he had gathered over the years, bank statements, text messages, even recordings of Sarah confessing her schemes to him. The wedding day arrived. I stood at the altar, my heart a leaden weight in my chest, my face carefully blank. Sarah, stunning in her white gown, floated down the aisle, her smile radiant, oblivious to the storm that was about to break. The guests were all there, my family beaming with pride, her family looking equally joyful. The air was thick with anticipation and the scent of expensive flowers. The ceremony began. The officiant spoke of love, commitment, and lifelong partnership. Sarah squeezed my hand, her eyes sparkling with what I now knew was a performance, a carefully constructed facade. When it came time for the vows, I took a deep breath. "Sarah," I began, my voice clear and steady, despite the tremor in my hands. "I promise to love you, to cherish you, and to stand by you through thick and thin." A gasp rippled through the congregation. "However," I continued, my gaze fixed on her, "I cannot promise to love a liar, a thief, and a manipulator." The smiles on the faces of our guests began to falter. Sarah's eyes widened, a flicker of fear replacing her manufactured joy. My family exchanged confused glances. "You see, everyone," I announced, my voice gaining strength, "Sarah has been living a lie. She faked her pregnancy." A collective gasp echoed through the room. My mother let out a choked cry. Sarah's face went ashen. "And that's not all. She has stolen my entire inheritance, over $2 million, and drained our joint savings. Every single penny." Pandemonium erupted. Guests started whispering loudly. My family looked utterly horrified. Sarah tried to grab my arm, her eyes pleading, but I pulled away. "And for those of you who are wondering who helped her with this elaborate scheme," I continued, "allow me to introduce you to David, Sarah's ex-husband, who she planned to run away with after tonight." David, who had been sitting discreetly in the back row, stood up and walked forward, holding a thick folder filled with documents. Sarah let out a shriek, a raw, primal sound of pure terror and rage. She lunged at me, clawing and screaming, but my brother, who had finally understood what was happening, quickly restrained her. David calmly approached the altar and handed the officiant the folder, which contained all the evidence, the falsified bank statements, the text messages, the recordings, everything. My family was in shock, their faces a mixture of disbelief and profound sadness. Sarah's parents were utterly mortified, their faces red with shame. The officiant, a kind elderly man, looked utterly bewildered. The police, who I had called earlier, arrived within minutes, having been stationed nearby. They took Sarah away in handcuffs, her screams echoing through the once elegant mansion. The wedding guests, stunned into silence, watched the spectacle unfold. David, my unlikely savior, stood beside me, offering a comforting hand on my shoulder. The aftermath has been a blur. Sarah is facing multiple charges of fraud and theft. My family is devastated, particularly my mother, who feels betrayed by Sarah. My father, surprisingly, has been a rock, helping me navigate the legal complexities and offering unwavering support. Sarah's parents have apologized profusely, claiming they had no idea about her true nature, though I can't help but wonder if they were complicit in some way. That I'm left with nothing. No fiancé, no inheritance, no savings, and a mountain of legal fees. The emotional scars run deep. I feel violated, foolish, and heartbroken. The dreams of a family, a home, a future, they're all gone. But there's also a strange sense of liberation. The truth is out. Sarah can no longer hurt anyone else, thanks to David and my decision to expose her. I know it will take a long time to heal, to rebuild my life, and to trust again. But at least now, I know the truth. And sometimes, the truth, however painful, is all you have left. I have reported the whole ordeal. I have to pick up the pieces and start over again. I will be okay, but it will take time. I am sharing this so others can learn from my mistakes. Always trust your gut feelings and always double-check everything. It's better to be safe than sorry. My family and friends have been so supportive. I truly appreciate them. I will be seeking therapy to help me cope with the emotional trauma of this experience. I'm not sure how long it will take, but I will get through this.